The summer of 1887 pressed down on Red Hollow like a branding iron. Dust hung in the air so thick that every breath tasted of chalk and regret. The town sat squat and sun-bleached at the edge of the Llano Estacado, where the grass gave up and the sky began. Most folks called it the last honest place before the border swallowed you whole. Ely Carver owned the biggest spread north of town, 3,000 acres of hard-won graze that still carried his father's blood in the soil. He was 34, tall, quiet, burned dark by 20 years under that merciless sun. People said he spoke more to horses than to men. They weren't wrong. That July morning he rode into Red Hollow for wire and salt. The general store smelled of tobacco and new leather. Old Man Pritchard was behind the counter counting pennies when the bell rang and she walked in. No one had seen her before. She wore a plain gray dress, high-necked, sleeves rolled to the elbows. Her hair was the color of mesquite smoke, pinned loosely, strands escaping like they were trying to run. Her eyes were the gray-green of storm water just before it breaks. She carried a market basket over one arm and moved with the careful grace of someone who had learned. Early that sudden motion drew the wrong kind of attention. Pritchard stopped counting. Eli, leaning against the cracker barrel with a coil of barbed wire over his shoulder, felt the room tilt half a degree. He straightened without knowing why. She approached the counter. 3 pounds of flour, she said. Her voice was low, accented faintly something from farther south, maybe the border counties. And a tin of coffee if you have any that isn't mostly chicory. Pritchard blinked, then nodded like a man waking from a doze. Got some Arbuckle came in last week. $1.75. She counted coins onto the scarred wood. They were Mexican silver, old and thin. Eli watched her hands. Long fingers, no ring. One small scar across the knuckle of her index finger. He told himself he was noticing because she was a stranger in a town that didn't get strangers often. He almost believed it. When she turned to leave, their eyes met for the first time. Something passed between them, brief, silent, sharp as a snapped rein. She looked away first, cheeks faintly flushed, and walked out into the white heat. Eli paid for his wire and followed a minute later. She was already halfway down the boardwalk, basket on her hip. He caught up without hurrying. "Ma'am," he said. She stopped but didn't turn. "You new in town?" She looked over her shoulder. "Passing through. Long way to pass through Red Hollow." Her mouth curved, not quite a smile. Sometimes the longest roads are the ones that circle back. He didn't know what to say to that. He touched the brim of his hat instead. "If you need anything water, a place to rest the horses, my place is 8 miles north. Blue Gate. Can't miss it." She studied him a long moment. "Thank you, mister." "Carver, Eli. Clara," she said simply, no last name. Then she walked on. He watched until she disappeared around the corner toward the livery. Something in his chest felt pulled taut, like fence wire in winter. That evening he sat on his porch with a tin cup of coffee gone cold, watching heat lightning flicker along the horizon. He told himself he was thinking about tomorrow's branding. He was lying. 2 days later she appeared at the Blue Gate, just after noon. She rode a wiry bay mare, saddlebags light, no rifle scabbard. Dust coated her skirt and the mare's flanks. Her hat was pushed back. Sweat had darkened the band. Eli stepped off the porch, wiping his hands on a rag. "Thought you were passing through," he said. "I was." She dismounted with care, favoring her left side slightly. The mare threw a shoe. Livery in town wanted 2 days to fix it. "I don't have 2 days." He glanced at the horse. "I can pull the shoe and reset it by dark." She hesitated. "I can pay." "Don't need pay." "Come inside." "Water's cold." She followed him into the dim house. It smelled of cedar and coffee and the faint iron of old blood from calving season. He poured her a glass from the pitcher on the table. She drank slowly, eyes traveling the room sparse, clean. One photograph on the mantel of a younger Eli standing beside an older man with the same jaw. "Your father?" she asked. "Was." She nodded, understanding in the single word. He went outside to the forge. She sat on the porch step and watched him work, no chatter. Just the ring of hammer on anvil, the hiss of hot iron in the trough, the soft snorts of the mare. When he finished, the sun was low and red. He led the bay back to her. "She'll carry you another 100 miles easy," he said. Clara stood. "I owe you. You owe me nothing." She looked at him, then really looked. Most men would have asked questions by now. I figure a person's reasons are their own until they choose to share them. Her eyes softened, just a fraction. "You're a rare kind, Eli Carver." He shrugged. "Just a rancher." She mounted, gathered the reins. "If I come this way again?" Blue gates still blew. She tipped her head, a small gesture that felt like a promise, then turned the mare south toward the border road. He watched her until the dust swallowed her. That night he dreamed of gray-green eyes and silver coins, and a woman who carried her past like a loaded colt. He woke before dawn, heart pounding, already knowing she would return. And that when she did, everything would change. 3 weeks passed like heat waves shimmering off Kalish. Eli told himself he wasn't watching the southern road every dawn. He was lying. Each morning he rode the fence line that bordered the old Spanish Grant, telling the hands it was to check for breaks after the last windstorm. They nodded, wise enough not to question the boss who rarely spoke more than necessary. On the 22nd day, she returned. She appeared at dusk, riding the same bay mare, but slower now, shoulders rounded as though carrying more than saddlebags. Ellie was in the corral doctoring a cut on a yearling's flank when he heard the gate chain rattle. He looked up. Clara sat motionless on the bay, hat pulled low, one hand pressed to her left side. He dropped the iodine bottle and crossed the yard in long strides. "You're hurt," he said, not a question. She tried to swing down, winced, stayed mounted. "It's nothing." "A scratch. Get off the horse before you fall off," she obeyed slowly. When her boots hit dirt, she swayed. Eli caught her elbow firm, no more. She smelled of sage smoke, horse sweat, and something metallic, blood. Inside, he lit the lamp. She peeled back her shirt without hesitation. A knife wound, shallow but angry, ran along her lower ribs. Clean edges, no infection yet. Someone had wanted to mark her, not kill her. "Who?" Eli asked, voice flat. "Men who think a name gives them claim." She met his eyes. "My husband's name." The word landed like a stone in still water. "You're married." "Was." She sat on the edge of the kitchen table while he boiled water and tore clean linen. "Rafael Valenzuela. He died 3 months ago near Laredo. Shot trying to cross a herd that wasn't his. The men who rode with him decided his debts and his wife became theirs." Eli soaked the cloth, pressed it to the wound. She hissed but didn't flinch. "They followed me across 3 counties," she continued. "Said I belonged to the brand now. I disagreed. This," she gestured at the cut, "was their last argument." He worked in silence, cleaning, then stitching with horsehair thread and a curved needle he kept for fence gashes. She watched his hands, steady as stone. "You could have gone to the law," he said. "In Texas?" A Mexican widow with no papers and a husband who rustled cattle. Her laugh was dry. "They'd have hung me faster than the men who cut me." He tied the last knot. "You're safe here." "For how long?" She touched the bandage. "They know this country. They'll come. Let them." She studied him. "You don't even know me." "I know enough." Night fell hard. He gave her the spare room, his mother's old one, still smelling faintly of lavender. She slept in borrowed clothes, too exhausted to argue. Eli sat on the porch with the Winchester across his knees until moonrise, listening to coyotes and the creak of cooling tin. At first light she found him at the cook fire, frying salt pork. "You didn't sleep," she said. "Enough." She accepted the tin plate he offered. They ate in silence while the sky turned shell pink. "I can't stay," she said finally. "You can. They'll bring trouble. You've built something here. I won't burn it down." He set his plate aside. "Trouble finds its own way. Always has." She looked toward the southern horizon. Raphael used to say a man's worth is measured by what he's willing to lose. I never understood until now. Eli stood. Then stay and find out what I'm willing to lose. She searched his face. Whatever she saw made her nod once, small and final. That afternoon he moved her mare to the back corral, out of sight from the road. He checked his weapons, revolver, rifle, the old Henry his father carried at Shiloh. Clara watched from the porch, learning the rhythm of the place, how the hands worked without orders, how the windmill groaned when the breeze shifted north, how Eli moved like a man who expected ambush but never showed fear. Evening brought the first sign. A single rider appeared on the ridge south of the ranch, silhouetted against the dying sun. He sat his horse a long time, then turned and disappeared the way he came. Scout. Eli didn't mention it. Clara saw anyway. They're close, she said after supper. Close enough. She stepped to the window, arms folded tight. I could ride out tonight. Draw them away. No, she turned. Eli. I said no. Something in his tone, quiet, absolute, stopped her. She crossed the room and stood close enough that he could feel her warmth. There's something you should know, she whispered. My name isn't Clara. He waited. It's Catalina Valenzuela. Raphael's sister gave me the name Clara when we fled Nuevo Leon. Said it would keep me safe among gringos. Her eyes held his. But names don't hide forever. He reached up, brushed a strand of hair from her cheek. Then we use the real one from now on. She caught his hand, held it against her face. That is forbidden, she whispered. A widow taking another man's protection so soon after her husband's death. The old ways, the church, the families, they call it shame, sin. He didn't pull away. Old ways don't hold much weight on this side of the Rio. They hold weight with me. Then we carry it together. Her breath caught. For a heartbeat neither moved. Then she leaned in, forehead resting against his collarbone. He wrapped one arm around her, careful of the stitches, and felt her tremble once, then still. Outside, the night pressed close. Somewhere in the dark, horses shifted and men waited. Inside, two people stood on the edge of something neither had asked for, both too stubborn to step back. Dawn would bring blood. But for now, in the lamplight, they held what little peace remained. Dawn broke cold and clear over the Llano, the kind of light that cuts shadows sharp as knives. Ailey stood on the porch with the Winchester resting in the crook of his arm, watching the southern road. Catalina slept inside, or pretended to. He had heard her turn restlessly through the small hours. The stitches on her side would hold, but the deeper wounds, the ones carried in silence, those no needle could close. By mid-morning dust rose on the horizon. 4 riders, moving deliberate, not hurrying. Eli recognized the lead horse, a big sorrel with a white blaze, the same one he'd seen the scout ride the night before. They stopped 100 yards out, just beyond effective rifle range, and waited. Eli stepped into the yard. Catalina appeared behind him, dressed in his spare shirt and denims, hair braided tight. She carried the old Colt he kept in the kitchen drawer. Her face was calm, almost serene. They came faster than I thought, she said. Men like that don't like waiting. She touched his arm once, light. Let me talk first. He looked at her. No, Eli. They want blood or property. Talking won't change the math. She didn't argue further. They waited together. The lead rider, a lean man with a salt and pepper mustache and eyes like chipped obsidian, nudged his horse forward. The others fanned out behind him. Valenzuela's widow, he called. Voice carried easy in the still air. Step out. We've business. Catalina moved to the porch rail. I'm here, Mateo. You've ridden a long way for nothing. Mateo smiled thin. Nothing? Raphael owed us 300 head and a woman's loyalty. Debts due. The herd scattered when he died. You know that. Then we'll take what's left. His gaze shifted to Eli. And settle accounts with the gringo who's keeping what ain't his. Eli spoke then, voice low but carrying. She stays, you ride on, Mateo laughed. Big talk from a man alone. I'm not alone, Eli said. Look behind you. The hands, 4 of them, had ridden out at first light, circling wide through the mesquite. Now they sat their horses on the low ridge to the east, rifles across pommels. Not shooting yet, just present. Mateo's smile faded. You think a few punchers scare us? I think you count better than that, Eli answered. 4 against 6, odds favor the house. Silence stretched. Wind moved the grass in slow waves. Catalina spoke next. Mateo, Raphael was your friend once. He'd not want this. Raphael's dead, Mateo said. His choices don't bind me. Then make your own, she said. Turn back, live. He studied her a long moment. Something flickered in his eyes, regret, maybe, or simply weariness. Then he spat into the dust. Last chance, Catalina. Come quiet or we burn this place with both of you in it. She lifted the Colt, steady. I've burned enough already. Eli raised the Winchester, sighted on Mateo's chest. Your move. The other 3 riders shifted, hands near weapons. Tension coiled tight as new wire. Then Mateo raised one hand, palm out. Easy. He turned his horse slow. The others followed, reluctant. They rode south at a walk, dust trailing like smoke. No shots. No threats, just departure. Eli lowered the rifle. Catalina let the Colt drop to her side. They'll be back, she said. Maybe, maybe not. He looked at her. Men like Mateo live on momentum. Take it away, they lose appetite. She exhaled, long and shaky. You risked everything. So did you. They stood in the yard while the sun climbed. The hands rode in one by one, nodded to Eli, tipped hats to Catalina, then dispersed to their work as though nothing had happened. Life on her ranch didn't pause for near blood. Inside, she set the Colt on the table. I can't ask you to keep doing this. You didn't ask. She turned to him. What now? He considered. You could ride on. Disappear south where they won't follow. Or you stay. He met her eyes. Not as a widow hiding. As Catalina. Here, her breath caught. The old ways. Old ways don't feed cattle or mend fences. They don't keep a woman safe when the world wants her broken. He stepped closer. I don't care what names they call it. I care what we build. She searched his face. You'd take that shame on yourself? I'd take whatever comes with you. Tears welled, not falling. She reached up, touched the scar on his jaw from a long ago stampede. Then I stay. He pulled her in, careful of the stitches, and held her while the morning light poured through the windows, warming the cedar floor. Weeks turned to months. The hands accepted her without fuss. She worked beside them, learned the cattle, rode fence with Eli at dawn. The brand on the gatepost stayed blue. No riders returned from the south. Word spread quiet. The Valenzuela debt was settled, one way or another. One evening in October, with the first cool wind carrying mesquite smoke, they stood on the porch watching the sky turn bruise purple. You ever regret it? She asked. Never. She slipped her hand into his. Forbiddens or not, this feels like the only honest thing I've done in years. He squeezed once. Then it's ours. The ranch lights glowed behind them. Somewhere a calf bawled, answered by its mother. The llano stretched endless under the stars. They had crossed a line drawn in dust and blood and old custom. And neither looked back.